Hi, I'm Tim. I'm the CEO here at DoltHub. I'm here to talk to you today about how to choose a database for your project. And so there's a few factors that go into this. I'm going to focus on four. The first is that you have to decide whether you want a SQL database or a NoSQL database. SQL is more traditional and NoSQL is a little bit newer. The second is, do you want a traditional single vertically scalable database or a horizontally scalable database? And there's advantages and disadvantages of each of those choices. The third is whether you'd like an open source solution, something that's free and cheap and easy to experiment with, or a proprietary solution, something from a big vendor. The last is whether you want to run the database yourself or whether you want someone to run it for you in a cloud vendor or something of that ilk. So I'm going to walk through those choices kind of quickly today. On the SQL, NoSQL choice. So SQL databases have been around. SQL's invented in the 60s. It's a well-known technology. You store your data in tables with schema, and there's a really well-known, well-spec'd query language called SQL that you can use. And so I'd say that's kind of the default choice. The technology's been around for a long time, and I think it's easier to hire people that have that skill. There's just a lot of good reasons why you want to go with kind of the straight down the middle of the road choice, which is SQL. Over the last 15 years or so, the NoSQL alternatives have come up, usually to prevent some of the scaling problems that were inherent with the SQL format. Now, there have become SQL databases that are horizontally scalable and scale forever, which we'll kind of go on there, but there are good NoSQL options if you want to go that route. Sometimes you might want like a document DB like Mongo, or you just might have a simple use case that doesn't require complex joins or data modeling that you get with SQL, and you can make a simpler solution with a NoSQL database. But for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to kind of stick more to the SQL side of the house because that's what Dolt is, and so I'm more familiar with those than the others. So the second choice you have to make is whether you want a traditional vertically scalable database, something that runs on one host, or you want a horizontally scalable solution, something where you can add an additional computer to make the database grow larger. Traditionally, databases have been vertically scalable. And sort of over the last 10 or so years, you've been able to horizontally scale databases basically to infinity, very large, multiple terabyte scale data within a single database. And so the upside of choosing a traditional database is they're just simpler. You have one running process, you can run it yourself, you can easily run two, one in dev, one in production, whereas with horizontally scalable databases, you kind of are beholden to a cloud provider, although you have technologies like Cassandra that allow you to run these yourself. But in my experience, once you go horizontally scalable, you kind of don't want to give up the option to run it yourself. It's harder to run the clustered algorithms that you need to do that. So here at Dolt, we built a traditional database. Dolt is something run on a single host, and so we think that's just a simpler option. And for most projects, that's probably going to be fine. But if you're intending on building a really high scale, high throughput application, either lots of data or need lots of throughput, you should look into horizontally scalable options. Some of those are something like Amazon Aurora or Google Bigtable. So those are your options there. So third, when you're considering open source versus proprietary, open source is easier to get started with. It's easier to fix if you run it yourself if you get into trouble. And when you choose the proprietary solution, you're kind of staying in the middle of the road using the traditional model. You're not taking much risk. Although most companies now are really comfortable running Postgres or MySQL in production. We run a Postgres database in production, and we have no problem with it. That tends to be the way that you should think about this problem. And so finally, fourth, have hosted versus self-hosted. So do you want to run the database yourself, or do you want someone to run it for you? Traditionally, you had to run your database yourself. Obviously, over the last 15 years, there's been a lot of adoption of cloud, and now people run all manner of database for you. So Dolt right now is self-hosted, although we just launched a host option a few days ago in early alpha, kind of trial mode, so you can try that out. If you're running the database yourself, you get full control. It can be cheaper. If you want someone to run it for you, it's a lot less work, and you get kind of seed backups, replication, this type of responsibility that may be a kind of a pain in your butt for the ability to for a small cost. And so when on the hosted option, you kind of have something like Amazon RDS in the traditional kind of SQL database category. For horizontally scalable databases, you have like Amazon DynamoDB or other cloud vendor offerings. And so those are the four kind of things I would think about when you're trying to decide what database to use. Depending on how you think about those options, Dolt might be free. Dolt is a SQL database. You can clone, branch, and merge just like Git repository. On these vectors, it's a SQL database. It is vertically scalable, so it runs on a single machine. It is open source, and it is either self-hosted or hosted is very early a trial. We have a hosted trial mode. So check it out, DoltHub.com. It's free and open source to try, and we would love it if you checked it out. So thanks for spending time watching this today. I'm Tim. I'm the CEO here at DoltHub. I'd encourage you to check out Dolt. It's free and open source. On GitHub, it's DoltHub/Dolt. We also have DoltHub.com where you can create an account for free, start hosting public databases for free, and get access to our hundreds of open databases for you to experiment with. That's www.dolthub.com.